around 2002 when he boarded Epstein's plane for his first trip connected to his foundation's global AIDS initiative. He said former Harvard President Larry Summers called him to say Epstein, described as a wealthy investment advisor back then, someone who donated a lot of money to Harvard and to brain research. So Summers calls him up and he says, hey, I've got this guy and he wants to discuss economics and politics with you for an hour. And in exchange, he's going to let you use the aircraft for Clinton's foundation trips to do the AIDS initiative that Bill Clinton had been so hot on. Now, that's probably true, but it just doesn't rack up with all the other knowledge we have about how much Epstein was on Clinton's radar for much, much earlier than that. The 2002 timeline doesn't really hold up because it's post Epstein. Of course, we also know that Epstein visited the White House many, many times. Clinton says he doesn't know about that. He never knew that Epstein visited. It's unusual. Clinton described taking 4 to 5 international trips on Epstein's plane to Africa, Asia, Northern Europe, and this all happened between 2002 and 2003. That's part of the flight logs. There was one domestic flight from Florida to New York as well. He said the Secret Service were always there on every trip. While he said he got a neck rub from one of the stewardesses on board of the aircraft that was dubbed the Lolita Express, although he did not recognize it as that. He said that was just because his neck was sore and that was all that happened. We don't know. We just don't know enough, although the person who gave him that back rub supposedly was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and is one of the victims involved in this case. Now, there are a lot of different victims. There's a lot of survivors. Each of them has a different story to tell. Let's take a listen to at least one of these clips from today's hearing. And this is interesting because we'll go through a few of them. If I'm not quite sure what this one is about, but let's take a listen to this first clip and see what it is.
For his deposition on January 13th, 2026, I will enter as Exhibit 5 the transcript for the deposition that President Clinton failed to appear for. The committee noticed a committee... Okay,
so this is just a clip referring to what we already know, which is the deposition. The deposition originally that it was scheduled, Clinton never showed up for. And that's for good reason, because he was still negotiating a different sort of arrangement with them. And ultimately, he and his wife, Hillary Clinton, have decided that they did want to participate in the depositions. And we'll have the Hillary Clinton deposition, by the way, I think tomorrow, because I don't think I can stay for that much longer. But we'll show you tomorrow night the full Hillary Clinton deposition. Now, let's move on to a clip now. Some of these are a bit of a... I'm just guessing a little bit here, but let's see what comes up next. If I play, that's not going to work like that. Let me do it this way. This is live, one-man television, which is always my favorite thing to do. So let me play a random clip. This is about this back rub that we were talking about. We talked about this back rub that he allegedly got. There's a photograph of that back rub, so we're aware that there was something happening on that plane. The stewardess in question is someone that Clinton still remembers her name today. And this is what he said about that particular event.
Receive a massage or have physical contact from her or anyone else on that trip.
You've seen the pictures. There was one time when I was sitting up and I got a back rub, a neck rub.
Okay.
And I think Shantae did it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with 2 young girls.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off. Let's see if we can get that back on the air here. Or maybe that was the entire clip. Yeah, so that's the one about the 2 young girls. We'll get to that clip again, the second one, or the second part of that clip in a few seconds. But it is unusual. He does remember the girl's name, or there was a girl who gave him the back rub. He remembers who she is until today. And that seems like an unusual thing for someone to remember this long a time if it was just an accidental back rub. But of course, anything is possible. Here he is talking about the Lolita Express per se. And
what is that when you say that?
Have you flown on the Lolita Express with Jeffrey?
Objection.
I don't know what that is.
Have you flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane with Huma Abedin?
Asked and answered. You may answer again.
I don't remember, but but I have phoned. She's been sort of a part of our family for a very long time. So when I went to the Middle East, which I don't think I ever took a plane ride with Jeffrey Epstein, but she would typically go when I did.
So have you traveled with both of them together?
Excuse me, both of whom, Congresswoman?
Of course. Have you traveled with Jeffrey Epstein and Huma Abedin together?
I do not know.
Okay.
That is interesting material because Huma Abedin, of course, was Hillary Clinton's aide, a very well-known aide of Saudi origin. And if I'm not mistaken, Jeffrey Epstein has a lot to do with Saudi Arabia too. So maybe that's the point behind that question. It's interesting that the question is about whether Huma Abedin was aboard the Lolita Express with Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, her ex-husband was also involved in some unusual activity online with at least one woman. So maybe that was the leading point of that question. But the president himself being quite definitive about the fact that he had not been on the Lolita Express. Had possibly been on the Lolita Express with Jeffrey Epstein and Huma Abedin, which he described as one of the families, but he did not know for sure whether he had been on there with the two of them. This next one is really interesting. We'll go back to this question of whether he received this massage on Epstein's Africa trip. Let's take a listen to this clip.
Receive a massage or have physical contact from her or anyone else on that trip?
You've seen the pictures. There was one time when I was sitting up and I got a back rub, a neck rub.
Okay.
And I think Shantae did it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with two young girls.
So again, it's these two. Sorry, it's the same clip essentially. But this Virginia Giuffre testimony is really interesting because it comes up a couple of times, and it's reported, at least by some of the people involved, some of the survivors involved, that the Clintons were guests at Zorro Ranch at some point, and others have said that they've been on the island. One of the key testimonies around Virginia Giuffre's allegations against about the president being on the island is not made in her book, but it is made in her diary. And her brother, Sky Roberts, provided one of the representatives a copy of that diary excerpt in which she describes Clinton as being at the island. Now, he denies ever going to the island. Who knows if that's true or not, and who knows if we'll ever find out for sure, but he denies that ever happened. That is a pretty definitive denial that if he's lying, is going to be an issue for him. But of course, there's no reason necessarily for him to lie. He's being as honest as he seemed to be today. He never pled the fifth once. He never really obfuscated except on a couple of points, although he made many denials today. Now, the next clip I have for you is really a question which we all have around whether he was a target of an intelligence operation. And this is a critical question, of course. A lot of us who've been able to prove that Jeffrey Epstein did work for both the Russian and Israeli intelligence services, plus he was close to the Saudi Arabians, have had this lingering question. Had he, Bill Clinton, been a target of Jeffrey Epstein as a spy? Now, Clinton is quite vociferous. He says he's really adamant about the fact that this would not have happened. But there's substantial evidence that this may have been the case. Let's listen to what he had to say right here in this clip.
Would you be able to identify the individual in the photo?
It looks like Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, the reason I ask you about this specifically is because I do believe that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence operative. And so this was a passport that was actually entered in and released by the Department of Justice, but this was an FBI filing. It was found in his safe, if you will. So it's an alias. So the reason I ask you that is because given your nature and position, I'm wondering if you were essentially targeted by a honeypot operation and or by intelligence to gather information. So that's why I asked you that question.
Well, if there was a honey,
Mr. President, there's not a question, Penn.
is there a question?
No. You can ask a question.
Well, I'll be getting to more, but that's the reason I asked that.
So he doesn't answer that, but that comment is, of course, an important comment. He's laughing it off a little bit, but it's certainly something we're asking a lot of the time. And I'm going to be publishing a report in the next day, which really looks at the role that Jeffrey Epstein would have played in scuttling the peace negotiations that happened under the Clinton presidency. Now, he says he doesn't know Epstein from before then. That may not ring true when you realize all the evidence that we have around it. But he's quite, he doesn't believe he was the target of an intelligence operation. It seems like that would be the only logical reason for anything like this to have happened. Like, it doesn't make sense really for Jeffrey Epstein to have spent all this time and effort and whatever it was he was doing with Bill Clinton if he didn't have an objective around, perhaps installing him as an asset or recruiting him as a sort of an asset, whether it's witting or unwitting. That's possibly one of the situations. I mean, it's not impossible for a president to become under the influence of a spy. It certainly has happened many times to many world leaders around the world. Here's the handwritten note, the birthday letter to Epstein. So Epstein is celebrating his 50th birthday. Ghislaine Maxwell is doing this book. Lots of unusual messages in that book. One of them comes from Bill Clinton. Now, bear in mind here that Jeff Epstein was not Bill Clinton's friend, according to Bill Clinton. He was just friendly with Bill Clinton. Yet somehow he gets included in this book on the 50th birthday of Jeffrey Epstein, and this is his response.
At this time, I'd like to introduce what will be marked as Majority Exhibit 13. And this is Bates marked House Oversight 000126. And while it's being passed out, this is a letter from a book of letters, which
Yeah, it's his 50th birthday.
Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday.
Questions?
Yeah,
Mr. President, do you recognize this
I
letter?
do.
And for the record, does this appear to be your handwriting and signature?
It is.
And why did you write this letter?
Why did I? Because I was requested to contribute a nice letter for his birthday book.
And who asked you to write the letter?
I don't remember.
Would Miss Maxwell have
I
asked
don't
you?
know. I think someone on my staff asked me.
Now, there's a word that our committee has not been able to identify, and in our defense, the Wall Street Journal has not been able to identify.
Imagine being on his staff.
Can you please read the letter for the record?
Yes. It's reassuring, isn't it, to have lasted so long across all the years of learning and knowing, adventures and errors, and still to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and the solace of friends. Not a bad letter.
And because we haven't been able to identify that word until now, what did you
Which
mean?
word was it that you could not?
Solace, you couldn't,
No, errors.
errors. What
Were
did
you
I
refer-
mean? Anybody who's lived 50 years and done anything has made mistakes as well as progress and done things.
But for the record, you weren't referring to errors in judgment that Mr. Epstein had related to his inappropriate activities involving young
Absolutely
individuals.
not. I knew nothing about that.
Really? You didn't know anything about that. Solace and
Did you ever
errors,
see
that's the
birthday
word.
book compiled together?
I don't think so.
And you mentioned previously you were friendly with Mr. Epstein. Did you typically send birthday wishes to individuals that you didn't consider to be friends, though?
No, I send out literally hundreds and hundreds of birthday letters every year to people that have been my friends. But if somebody's doing a special, I've sent birthday letters of congratulations to people I've met 2 or 3 times for their 70th birthday, their 80th birthday, their, 50th wedding anniversary. I do it. And I told you, I thought Epstein was interesting and curious, so I wrote a letter that I thought reflected that.
Can you elaborate on what made him?
Maybe it's all true. Somebody's asking me in the chat here to clarify what I said about Epstein's and Clinton's knowledge of each other or when they first met. Now, I believe what he said today, and someone can can correct me here. I believe he said that he stopped talking to Epstein around 2006, but that his last trip with Epstein was in 2003. He also claims he just met him in 2002, although the record is different because we have a photograph of Epstein and Clinton from the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken, at the White House. Now that's, people have different perceptions of that, of what was meant by that. And I'd be interested in what everyone's agreeing here on the chat or not with that assessment. But according to my notes here, there's a 1993 photo of Clinton and Epstein shaking hands at a White House Historical Association reception. Clinton says he neither nor does Hillary remember any of that taking place. They only learned about it later from the photograph. We also know that in 1992, Epstein had made a couple of donations to the Clinton campaign, $1,000 in each, and then he visited the White House 17 times between 1993 and 1995. And there's also a 1995 Palm Beach fundraiser of Clinton with Epstein and Jimmy Buffett. Clinton says he did not remember meeting Epstein there. All of that strains credulity a little bit when you start seeing this, someone with a lot of access to the White House getting into the White House 17 times. Not so easy to do. Lynn Forrester, later becoming Lynn Forrester Rothschild, wrote Clinton a note in April 1995. And again, she references Jeffrey Epstein in the note that she wrote him. Yeah, there's just a lot of data points here that keep showing up. That maybe Clinton knew Jeffrey Epstein in the 90s, and maybe there was good reason for him to know him in the 90s. And we will talk more about the Middle East peace process and Jeffrey Epstein's real goal in that in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. So there's a significant gap of memory there. I know someone in the chat here is saying there's 1,600 employees at the White House. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's also maybe 6 or 7 data points that suggest he knew or had heard or had met Jeffrey Epstein. Plus, I'm basing my comments on other information I have that their relationship certainly appeared to go back a lot further than 2002. I'm not saying the president is lying. I'm saying the president may not recall the entire event, may not have the same memory. There's any number of things that could happen. That a man of Clinton's age and of his stature in life would have met hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's quite easy to imagine him not remembering some of these people, although he seemed to represent him in that birthday card as someone who's interesting and eclectic or something. So obviously he knew him well enough. This is what else I've got here in terms of clips. What did we get up to? We got up to the birthday book. So this next one refers to the Clintons, him denying ever discussing young women or girls with Jeffrey Epstein.
Communications with Mr. Epstein. Did you ever have any communications that were not related to the foundation?
I don't believe we ever talked about anything but the work we were doing. I mean, maybe small talk. I can't imagine. I don't remember the conversations.
And for the record, before we move on, did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
And so he says no there. Oops, sorry, I don't have it there. Okay, let me play one last clip here, and there's plenty more to go. And I wish I had more time to really assess all of these to make sure that I've got a lot of this covered for you. There's a lot of things in here which we're just not going to get to. It's unfortunate because there's so many in the later hours, just so many much more interesting clips. But let me play you a couple more that we have here. And again, feel free to comment on the chats if you have anything you want to share. I'd be happy to hear it. So this is another interesting question about a potential sex tape.
And I do not believe that these claims are credible. The reason I am asking you specifically about that name is because that individual stated that you were in sex tapes, okay? It was unfounded and it was discredited. But given the politicization of this entire investigation, do you believe that it would be appropriate of members of this committee to bring in witnesses, whether it is about you or another president, that have unfounded allegations regarding sexual claims of misconduct?
That's not a decision for me to make.
As a recommendation in regards to avoiding trafficking, et cetera, and bringing justice for the victims, would you make that recommendation to this committee?
Congressman, just so I understand the question, you're saying if the witness has unfounded claims?
Well, I don't believe that Sarah Ransom's claims about the president are founded. I don't believe that there's sex tapes with you, President.
Interesting conversation about sex tapes. Of course, that was the point behind the blackmail operation that we believe Epstein was running, was to blackmail these politicians, to blackmail these business leaders, these academic leaders, in order to either get information from them, or at least have the potential of blackmailing them. That's enough of a threat for them to want to do stuff for him, even if it's an implied threat. Now, there's no indication that there was ever any sex tape of Bill Clinton, and one would be surprised if that in fact existed all this time. Next up, yes, I know there's two live streams going, because one is the end of the deposition, which was ran for 4 hours. Another one is just so people could jump into the after part of it. So feel free to jump out of the deposition one if you want to join the after one, and we'll stay here as long as we can. That's the chat that I'm going to be watching in just a second, because right now I'm in the deposition one. So I'll move to the other one in just a second. I think the most critical point here came at this point where I think it was Representative Stansbury who was given a diary entry from Virginia Giuffre's diary, in which she claimed that Clinton was on the island, and he responded to that claim. It was a dramatic moment. Let's take a look here at what he responded.
She writes, quote, Bill Clinton met 2 times island with 2 girls, CT, G, M, and JE. What is your reaction to that?
It's not true.
Do you have any dates associated with that? Were there dates on the diary?
I don't have that information, but we'll be happy to share it with you.
Would be terrific, because I think there are also records that would reflect where else he would have been. So thanks.
Did she say that in her book?
This is from her personal diary that her family shared with us.
But the book came out more recently. Did she say that in the book?
I'm just reading you the entry from her diary that her family shared with me.
I think she ultimately reached a different conclusion, although I had no contact with her.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that it's on the record that is Virginia Giuffre's statement. Did you ever fly in a helicopter with Ghislaine Maxwell?
Ever, anywhere? I have no idea.
Okay, well, at least one of the survivors claims that you flew in a helicopter with Ghislaine Maxwell to the island.
Did you ever?
Then I did not do that. I've never been to that island.
Okay.
What an interesting response. He obviously knew that Virginia did not, in her book, say that Clinton had been to the island, because she removed all the references of leaders from the islands. I think she took out everyone's name in order to get the book published and to secure what was supposed to be her safety. So that's why she wouldn't have done that. It's not an indication necessarily that it wasn't true, but it is interesting that he knows the detail of that. It makes you wonder whether he was involved in any of the negotiations around that, whether there was any knowledge around Virginia's publication of that book regarding Bill Clinton's potential inclusion in that book in the way that it was included there. So I found that one really interesting. I'm in the second chat now, in the second live stream, and there's 700 people here, and people should join us here, because I'm going to log off the other one just to give everyone the space on the dial here. But if you have any questions, I'd like to hear them. We will definitely keep playing back some of these and keep analyzing some of these. I'm fascinated by their interest in this. I think people have been keenly interested in what he had to say today, as they were in what Hillary had to say, and we'll have more on that. There is some breaking news out of not Iran. There's a lot of breaking news, of course, there as well in the Middle East, and we'll get to that. But there is breaking news regarding a friend who called himself a soulmate of Ghislaine Maxwell. This guy's name is, and he's a Russian, I wouldn't call him an oligarch. He's not quite that. He's a Russian mogul. And this comes from the New York Post. Let me see if I can throw up the article cover for you. If not, I'll just read it to you. I don't think I'm just going to be able to read it to you here. A Russian mogul who once called sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell his soulmate was found dead in a luxury Moscow apartment Monday, according to reports, just weeks after his name surfaced in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Umar Jarbrailov, a Chechen businessman and former senator, was discovered lying in a pool of blood with a gunshot wound to his head around 3 a.m. That's according to the Russian outlet Kommersant. Citing police sources who called it a suspected suicide. It does not sound like a suspected suicide, although he has a history of once before trying to commit suicide. He didn't leave a suicide note or anything else. He was 67 years old. Jabrailov said that Ghislaine was his soulmate, and he appeared several times in the latest DOJ Epstein document dump. In one point, he writes, "Dear Ghislaine, I'm back from London, planning to be in Moscow. I really want to see you, but I need to know exactly when you arrive because I want to take care of you and arrange welcoming things. Wishing you all the best, Umar." Read the email dated May the 24th. Maxwell responded the following day by writing, "Umar, sorry that we did not come last week, got sidetracked and ended up in France. However, we, Jeffrey, Tom, and I are coming next week, arriving Friday. Will you be around? And we can plan to get together. Let me know. Hope to see you. Hope you're well, Ghislaine." And so he is now dead. There's a lot of bodies that are showing up and regarding the Epstein files, a lot of attempted suicides, lots of suicide. It really is beginning to paint a very dire picture of what has been going on here. Let's play you one last clip now from the Clinton deposition today. This is, let me see where we're at here. What shall we play next? I mentioned the confrontation with Ghislaine's diaries. I'm going to play one last clip then. This one I found really interesting about his note that everybody, all the rich people get massages when you travel on their private jets. Not anything I've experienced.
What he saw and what he knew. And so what you're now asking him is, given what you've now shared with him, does he think any differently about what he saw and what he knew? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I wish Shante had told me. I liked her. But I didn't think it was anything unusual. I can't tell you how many airplanes I've been on where rich people asked me to go and they had someone offering a massage. All these boats that you go on and all that, they all do that. And usually I don't do that. I'm not into.
Sorry, there I am. I was making jokes about whether it happens to you all the time that you get massages when you go on boats, on private boats and yachts, or on private planes. Compared to the way the rest of us travel, that's not very common. So those are some of the bigger notes from today's very long deposition. I'm going to have to go back and restudy these in great detail because, for the most part, you do get the impression that Bill Clinton is being really honest and really forthright in the way he's answering questions. His posture seems to be very open. And yet, when you look at everything he's denying, and there is a lot of denials around meetings and things that seem to be factually on the record. Maybe some of them are not, but suggestions that he met Ghislaine on many occasions, that he traveled with Ghislaine on many occasions, that that there was a much closer friendship between Jeffrey and him than meets the eye, and yet we don't get that in the answers. We don't get the detailed, textured detail of what we know the record contains. So while he's very open and frank and being very Clinton-y about everything, you get a real sense of how willing he is to share some things. Maybe he's not willing to share all things. And maybe he's keenly aware of his own potential criminal exposure, but also political exposure. The president has been pretty open about going after people that offend him in any way, any of his political opponents. Of course, he announced that there's a Clinton investigation underway. Well, if that's all true, maybe the former president here is just being very, very careful about what he's answering, because he knows that he wants to stay, outside of the prosecutor's sights and also out of the political, the political targeting of the president. That does not mean he's lying. I don't think he lied today. I think he was being very honest, but very selectively honest about everything he said. And I think his honesty really does, then suggest to us, why hasn't Donald Trump done the same thing? This is relatively harmless stuff. It'll probably be disappear in a few days for Bill Clinton. The question is, the president in Donald Trump could have been testifying months ago, could have got it over with. The whole Epstein thing would have disappeared, unless he's got something much more to hide than Clinton does. And that may well be the case. Of course, the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton is very different from the relationship with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, because Bill Clinton was a target of Jeffrey Epstein, we believe. And Donald Trump was not so much a target as a partner, as a friend, as a schemer. They were sort of in a different realm of closeness. And that's evident throughout a lot of the evidence we've seen so much already. Let's take one last clip here. This is around a sex party. Let's see what he has to say here.
Your name appears in FBI tip sheets as having attended parties in Jeffrey Epstein's presence in which sexual activities were occurring. Did you ever attend a party of any kind or an event with Jeffrey Epstein in which sexual activities were occurring?
Pretty clear about that. No, and I don't think those allegations looked credible. I think for the most part, we don't really suspect him of doing anything that untoward, because there really is no evidence in that regard. Which is why it seems to me, at least, that he likely was a target of Jeffrey Epstein's operation, if you will. There is one clip I'm dying to find to play to you, because it involves a conversation that Clinton says he had with Trump about Epstein. And unfortunately, it's not so clear where it is here, so I can't really play it back. But I think the conversation was that Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were playing golf, and Donald Trump had come up with the name Jeffrey Epstein had come up, and that he had said that they used to be friends and that they had a falling out over a land deal. Now, that's, of course, only one of the reasons we suspect Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein stopped being friends. The other one involves whether Jeffrey Epstein was taking girls from the Mar-a-Lago club, or the more understood reason is that it had something to do with the sale of a Palm Beach mansion. To Bill Clinton, Donald Trump apparently classified it as a dispute over land. That's why their friendship broke up. One last clip here. I should stop saying that because I'm playing so many.
I had no reason to believe that at the time.
Okay. Did you ever feel uncomfortable due to the presence of young girls on any of these flights?
When you say young girls, do you mean women who are younger than 18? And so you're saying there were women younger than 18?
I'm asking.
Yeah, if you can ask that question.
Were there anybody on the flights that you can recall under age 18?
To the best of my knowledge, there was not. If there was, and I knew it, I would be uncomfortable.
That answered. All right. Did you ever speak?
Well, there you go. That's really interesting. That's his response to that. One last clip here. I got to stop saying it because there's been so many. Here's
System set up to act on it.
this is about attending the Chelsea's wedding.
Is it true that in 2013, Ms. Maxwell was a guest at the Clinton Global Initiative Conference?
I don't know, is that when's the last year we had it?
2013 is one of the years where they're asking whether or not she was there.
I know. I'm trying to,
So you can just,
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Well, I understand that she also attended your daughter's wedding.
She did.
And so understanding now the unspeakable evil that these people committed, do you believe it was a mistake allowing them close to your family?
are you asking if he knew at the time when she was at the wedding?
Looking back,
Looking back, I had no idea. If I had known what she was doing, I would have done the right thing.
I understand. Well, I think that
But I also, keep in mind,
That's where that clip ends. And that is where we'll leave it tonight. I want to thank you all for standing by with us for the last 5 hours. We've been covering the Bill Clinton deposition. This was recorded last Friday. We're bringing it to you now because this is when it's been released. Was it Friday? Maybe it was another day. Maybe Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. It's taken them a while to release it. So, you know, it's hard when you're just seeing it roll out for the first time to be conclusive about absolutely everything that was said there, but there was certainly a lot of information. Bill Clinton seemed very forthright on many, many issues. He discussed his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, his friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell. He even discussed his body man, maybe even having an affair with Ghislaine Maxwell. He discussed Jeffrey Epstein and his supposed friendly relationship, but not friends relationship with him. He denied knowing Jeffrey Epstein while he was president. A lot of the stuff came after he was president. He seemed to say that it was possible that Epstein was a spy, but he seemed it was unlikely that he was the target of any spy operation. And he discussed the Clinton initiative. He was also quite clear about what he says Donald Trump said to him, and that he included in those comments that Donald Trump never said anything about doing anything untowards or illegal in and around Jeffrey Epstein. So all of that has, ended years and years of speculation, at least, on whether Bill Clinton would ever testify under oath, and he has here today. Hillary Clinton testified as well. We'll play you that tomorrow night. We know now where he stands on all these big issues, and the question really is, will Donald Trump testify now? Because if Bill Clinton can do it, there's no reason why Donald Trump can't do it. We didn't hear the president invoke any Fifth Amendment rights today. I think that was very, very telling. So that's our coverage. It's been a long day here on Narrative. We woke up this morning talking about Iran, and now here we are many, many hours later, back to the Epstein files. For those people who think that the strikes on Iran and the war on Iran is going to wipe the Epstein files off the minds of all Americans, you're wrong. I think the story remains of huge interest and will continue to be a major focus for us here on Narrative. We can cover both stories at the same time, many stories at the same time, and we'll continue to cover what's going on in the Epstein files. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it so much. Every cent that you subscribe with is a cent that goes right into our ability to bring you this coverage. All this technology costs money, all the feeds cost money, hours and hours and hours of work going to every single thing we do here. So I appreciate all your support for Narrative. It has been a passion of ours to bring you the truth about Jeffrey Epstein for 10 years and the truth about Donald Trump for 10 years. Some of that is turning out to be very correct now as these Epstein files are being rolled out. So thank you for your support. Thank you. Ellie just texted me something. I don't know what she's going to say, so let me double check. Ellie Leonard, of course, one of the incredible people who does a lot of great stuff with us. And you should follow her blog, her Substack at Ellie Leonard. You should follow Lev Parnas, who is also a big supporter. We deal with him all the time. And there's a group of us that are doggedly working very, very hard at uncovering everything about Bill Clinton. And about Donald Trump and about Jeffrey Epstein and about the entire network. And it's supported by a lot of you. There's a lot of people who are watching the show who are investigating this alongside us, who are getting access to the DOJ documents on the DOJ website, going through them all in great detail and helping us surface things. And I encourage everyone to do it. The DOJ files are available to everyone. If you have a couple of hours in your day, why not pick a topic and see if you can climb down that rabbit hole with us? And you'll find information about something that we maybe have not seen. There are millions and millions of documents. And when we try to surface them, the more they come. So I think there's a new story I've discovered every single day, and same for everyone else in this group. So keep supporting all of us who are doing this work, and thank you for your work that you're doing in identifying everything around the Epstein files and digging up the truth. It does feel like, sunlight is beginning to shine upon this topic, and we are getting a lot more facts, a lot more people speaking, a lot more people understanding the impact and the scope of the Epstein operation. And that is why people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton finally agreed to testify and be deposed under oath. We'll be back tomorrow with 5 Stack at 3:00. Dean Blundell joins me, and I think we have Malcolm Nance on tomorrow to talk about Iran and a whole bunch of other things. So please join me and Dean and Malcolm at 3 p.m. And then in the evening, I think, there's an election. There's an election. Somewhere in the day tomorrow, we'll throw in the Hillary Clinton deposition as well. And then the special elections and the results late into the night tomorrow night. Busy few days, as it always is here on Narrative. Thank you for being here, and have a great night. We'll see you again tomorrow.